This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and today is Monday. It's January 29th, 2024. Thank you for joining us on thetruthcentral.com. You can find me on X at Corsi Jerome 1, CORSIJEROME, the number 1, altogether, small letters. And you can find us on Substack. We're going to be posting additional material on Substack this week. My Substack is Jerome Corsi PhD.substack.com. Okay, so let's go take a look at some of the stories we're planning to cover today. There's an interesting article out, and I'm beginning to question myself whether we're already at war with Iran. If you followed the news over the weekend, you'll see that there was an attack again on a U.S. base. There was a drone that killed 3 Americans in an attack in the Middle East. Our U.S. forces in the Middle East have been attacked repeatedly in the area. We have still troops in Iraq and Syria. We've had more than 150 attacks since October 17th, and it's clear that Iran is behind these attacks. Now, increasingly, we're getting congressmen, different people. Mitch McConnell was saying that he's called for serious crippling costs to Iran, not only on the frontline terrorist proxies, but on their Iranian sponsors who wear American blood as a badge of honor. Lindsey Graham, who said that the U.S. has carried out on Iranian proxies outside Iran, the attacks will not deter Iranian aggression. He's calling to strike targets of significance inside Iran. Tom Cotton, the only answer to these attacks must be devastating military retaliation against Iran's terrorist forces, both in Iran and across the Middle East. This is Tom Cotton, who's a Republican from Arkansas. Anything less will confirm Joe Biden as a coward unworthy of being commander-in-chief. Well, I think he's beyond being a coward. I think he's demented mentally. He looks to me to be in senior decline, and I don't see that he's really running the country. John Cronin, all the Republicans are calling for military attacks against Iran. Not all of them, but certainly the hawks among them. And Lindsey Graham is always wanting to attack everybody. I mean, Lindsey Graham should have retired a long time ago, as should have McConnell. The problem is the corruption that we have in our government. This has been going on for a long time. I wrote my first book on Iran in 2005 called Atomic Iran. Okay, that's almost 20 years ago. And I was predicting then what's happening today is that Iran is dedicated to destroying Israel. And that once they destroy Israel, they're dedicated to destroying us. They call Israel the little Satan, we're the great Satan. And so therefore, back to the days of Ahmadinejad, who was head of Iran about a decade ago, he even went to the United Nations as he's a Shiite Muslim. He's talking about the Mahdi, which is this young boy who was the last of the family of Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, who was ruling Muslims all across the world. The Shiites believe that. They believe that this Mahdi, M-A-H-D-I, will come out of the well. There'll be a worldwide apocalypse. And in the worldwide apocalypse, there's going to be the triumph of Shiite Islam over Sunni Islam. So Saudi Arabia and most of the other countries in the Middle East are Sunni. They believe that the control of Islam should be in the hands of secular control, like the great caliphate that Turkey had going back into the early 1900s, late 1800s. Secular control is fundamental to most of the Muslims in the world. In fact, Iran is really the only country where Shiites have the majority. The rest of the Muslim world is Sunni. This Sect, however, is particularly dangerous because any group that believes you're going to have an apocalypse in order for their religion to triumph, and particularly is hating Americans and determined to build nuclear weapons. Well, since John Kerry, who I've been opposing since he ran for president in 2004 when I co-authored Unfit for Command, the Swiftboat veterans speak out against John Kerry, I've been pointing out that Iran is a very dangerous country. What Iran wants to do is Iran wants to destroy, it wants violence, and it's spreading violence all through the region. By the way, I decided to sell some of my stock of authors' books. So if you go down to the authors' signed books, you can see I'm selling The Atomic Iran right now. I have copies of it left, and I will sell signed copies. Chris will show you how to navigate to that on the website. If you go to the signed books, there's one of these things called an e-pipe. You can actually order the book from me through that, clicking those buttons there. And Chris will show you how to do it. There's where the books are, and there's a tab there with books, and you can go down to it, find the one with Atomic Iran, and you can order that right there. Grab this book, and I'll sign it and send it to you. Same with the coup d'etat, same with Black Gold Stranglehold. What do I think is the solution here? There is no solution. John Kerry signed this agreement with Obama and Iran, in which Iran was allowed to continue developing nuclear weapons, just not while Obama was president. And they shipped him boatloads or airplanes full of cargo airplanes full of cash. And now under Biden, again, the sanctions have been reduced against Iran. Iran is back producing oil and selling it in the international markets. It's got revenue. We've released billions of dollars that were being held while we were sanctioning Iran, and that's also now being released. What I'm saying is we're now, the world's at war. We've got a war going on in Ukraine. We've got the Israel Defense Force going through cleaning out Hamas out of Gaza. They do not appear like they're slowing down. There does not appear to be a truce anywhere imminent. The same with Ukraine. You've got Zelensky still traveling the world asking for money, and Biden is saying he will not, until he gets his money for Israel and for Ukraine, spending more with the arms dealers of the world, which are getting their payday now, just like the pharmaceutical companies got their payday during COVID. Biden saying unless he gets that money, he is not going to do anything on the border. We're going to get to that in a minute. But as we continue this discussion of Israel and Iran, you've got Hezbollah funded by Iran in Lebanon. You've got Syria also with Muslim forces largely aligned with Iran, who have been attacking Israel from Syria, the Golan Heights. And you've got Hamas positioned right in the Gaza Strip and also in the West Bank. You've got the Houthis in Yemen, which are down at the tip of the Red Sea, which are in fact also funded by Iran. So Iran is the terror master. And Biden has done nothing to restrain Iran. In fact, with the United States weakening, with our military more worried about putting transvestites into the military, our military is stretched. It's not under effective command. And recruits are dying out because people do not want to go into this transgender military. Who would? So at the same time, the war rhetoric is ramping up over this attack. The Iranians also just launched 3 new satellites into space. They did that, I believe, on Sunday. And these satellites are believed to be the satellites deployed by the Iran's defense ministry, and they have the capability of guiding ballistic missiles. That's what it was believed, that these 3 satellites are going to be in orbit for the purpose of guiding ballistic missiles. We don't know if Iran has a nuclear weapon now or not. And I think we're on the verge of having a nuclear war. And these woke nutcases who are destructive and want to depopulate, finally, I think the American public are waking up to what is in fact a serious, serious threat when the Pentagon, the Department of Justice, Our military, the media, the entire Democratic Party have gone communist woke. These are destructive movements, and they are designed to weaken the United States and destroy capitalism. As far as I'm concerned, this is pure Satanism. And that's at the heart. It's what the book I've written on the truth about Neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. We are now in the anarchy stage. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, you can see Obama is getting his third term in office. He always said he'd like to have a puppet as president where he could, behind the scenes, make the decisions. If we go to the next story, this truck convoy, which is calling itself the Army of God, is heading toward the border. And it's beginning today. The convoy is headed to Eagle Pass, Texas, Tucson, Arizona, and San Diego, California. They're calling truckers, bikers, law enforcement, veterans, military, elected officials, business owners, ranchers, and freedom-loving Americans. And they want a peaceful assemble and honor the constitutional rights to secure our borders. Well, undoubtedly, the Department of Justice is going to be looking at this as insurrection again, like January 9th or January 6th in the Capitol. I'm sure the Department of Justice is investigating this. They're not worried about the terrorists coming across the border. Our borders are wide open, and it seems like the Democrats are either trying to turn Texas into a democratic state, or they're just trying to destroy America. I'm not entirely sure what the Democrats think they're doing, but when you listen to AOC over the weekend is praising Somalia, a lot of the people I think wish she'd just go back to Somalia. So the convoy has a website, and the website is takeourborderback.com, takeourborderback.com. Right at the top of it, it says peaceful assembly and prayer, a picture with flags, and Jesus is my savior. We the people taking our border back. And it says pack your campers, cars, RVs, and trucks. Bring your chairs and coolers and a kind heart. This is January 29th to February 3rd. They've got a convoy, maps and routes and convoy calendar. I can guarantee you that the Department of Justice views this as insurrection. They're not going to take kindly to demanding that the Biden administration enforce the laws. They're not going to take kindly to the fact that Biden is happy to have the borders wide open. And there are videos now, people going down the border and just showing how porous this wall is. The wall has wide sections of it that are open and roads coming across to make it easy. No guards, no border patrol. And in fact, the border patrol seems to be right now only for show at certain border crossing stations. Get beyond those border crossing stations, and there's many places where the border is simply wide open. And again, I'm for immigration, but it should be legal. And what this makes you realize is that in fact, the federal government is the problem. You can't run a drug organization without a bank. You can't drive around semi-trailers full of $100 bills. Got to get that money into the banking system. And I caught HSBC money laundering for the drug cartels in 2011. They got a $1.9 billion fine from the Department of Justice. Nobody went to jail. Why? Because we are the drug cartels. CIA has been in the drug business since before World War II. And again, all wire transfers of money are monitored by the Treasury Department, by the National Security Agency. We had to know that HSBC was opening up bank accounts and legitimate Social Security numbers, running millions of dollars through them, and then closing the bank account. That money was being laundered. It was being laundered through banks in Long Island, HSBC banks in Long Island. I had the records. I went public with them. The Department of Homeland Security contacted me. I turned over the records. And also, I was contacted by the Senate Permanent Investigating Committee, which wrote a several hundred-page report, documented what was going on, and it was all money laundering. And the federal government said, oh, we didn't know anything about it. Well, that's nonsense. Same with the pedophilia, the stolen children, the sex trade that's coming across the border. So you're seeing middle-class Americans who are being squeezed economically saying that we, the people, are uniting to peacefully use our voices in unison to take our border back. Well, we'll also need to take our cities back. Our cities are getting overrun right now with crime, with these flash mobs that come in and loot. Cities like Los Angeles are having the commercial real estate buildings being largely empty, 30 to 40%, maybe more in certain instances. And businesses are closing because it's not safe in the downtown area of San Francisco. Downtown area of San Francisco football team might be going, 49ers might be going to the Super Bowl. But in the meantime, San Francisco itself is going to hell. Cities are overwhelmed with homeless. Drugs are allowed. These are people who are going in decline. The law enforcement are not enforcing the drug laws. And again, you have rampant crime resulting from people needing to buy drugs and not having any employment. So these situations are just completely messed up. At the same time, the Democrats over here with their woke ideology are saying defund the police. They're saying the criminals are the victims because of capitalism and we're racist. And so therefore, these are the victims. This is George Soros. And his whole foundation has been aimed at funding insanity. Destroying America is his goal. And the Open Society Foundation is designed to destroy our country by removing God, attacking the family, opening the borders, defunding the police, turning our cities into democratic hellholes, and the country will be degraded while this green agenda, we've got to stop using hydrocarbon fuels. So, by the way, we exhale carbon dioxide. If it's noxious, the Democratic Party is about one step from saying, do us all a favor and kill yourself. Of course, they want to kill babies. They're going to campaign for the presidency on a woman's right to control her biological system, reproductive system. And that's going to mean a formula for more babies being killed. And these demons want to kill babies in late term when they can harvest their body parts. I never thought I'd be reporting this. Well, actually, I did think I'd be reporting this because I've been fighting it for the last 20 years. And unfortunately, we're at a point where now the woke is taking control. It started with the pandemic, and now we're facing it worldwide. Also in Europe, and Berlin, and they're shutting everything down. And shutting everything down, what they're doing is making it clear that they do not want this net zero policy coming into place. Because the net zero crowd, these want to create the elimination of farms because they think that animals fart methane. So they want to end farming. No farms, no food. So the farmer protests are now making their presence known in Brussels, where the EU is now painfully aware of the populist rebellion. And it is a rebellion. It's going across Europe as protests sweep the continent, taking their cue from the tractor demos that delivered resounding success at the polls in the Netherlands. And it looks like with European elections coming up, the EU is becoming painfully aware that these protests are going to mushroom into a continent-wide movement as June's European elections approach. These disruptive protests from farmers in Europe are nothing new, but this one is different. The tractors have been on the march in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and Belgium, and crucially, the Netherlands. World tractor protests have become so ubiquitous, were it not for the Dutch farmers whose fight captured the attention of the likes of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. This is a worldwide protest. Finally, the world is getting sick of this woke agenda. They're getting sick of the electric vehicles, all pushed on us by the woke doesn't work. Telling children in kindergarten that they are boys that want to be girls or girls that want to be boys, and then mutilating their sex organs before they know what puberty is a travesty. And increasingly, people are not taking vaccines because they are aware now, finally, that the mRNA vaccine was not a vaccine. It was gene-changing therapy. And these are the kinds of things that I think are finally coming into recognition across the world of the amount of lies we've been told, and told lies for a long, long time. Okay, now, in this insanity, I recommend solidly you get a copy of this free book, which is How the Coming Global Crash Will Create an Historic Gold Rush. And that's essential to get because it's free. Call the toll-free number, which is 1-800-519-6268 at Swiss America. Talk to Swiss America. Repeat that number. You can get the historic, How the Coming Global Crash Will Create an Historic Gold Rush, 1-800-519-6268, 519-6268. You can also get this Walking Liberty $50 offer from Swiss America. These are silver coins that were minted a long time ago. They're circulated. They're not unconditioned. They're not pure, unblemished, but they have a very high silver content, over 99%. And on this offer, you can get them for first-time buyers for virtually what they are worth in terms of their silver content. It's a lost leader for Swiss America, but they want urgently to talk to you about getting some gold. Gold is still trading over $2,000 an ounce, and it's held there since the beginning of the year. Chris is showing you there's also free publications. There's a lot here in our sponsor. I've been working with Swiss America for over 20 years, and I'm going to be redoing their publication about the war on cash. I'm going to start writing that this week. Okay, if we continue to move on the stories we're covering today, again, you can see all of this net zero and open borders. People have had enough of it. People know the getting rid of hydrocarbon fuels doesn't work. They know what's and being engineered here is the fact that we will have a lesser economy, and depopulation, killing billions of people, seems to be the agenda of this woke World Economic Forum dominated insanity. Now, the next story, PolitiFact's parent company is paying local journalists to write about transgender, calling white extremists, and how Bidenomics is working. So it's the Poynter, Poynter Institute, which holds itself out as a nonpartisan group of journalism experts. They're getting money from the Joyce Foundation, the Gill Foundation, the Catena Foundation, and they're funding classes for journalists across the country, guiding them on how to cover such topics as climate change, transgender medical care. Some participants will be paid grants bankrolled by activist foundations to write about these topics that the woke wants propagandized. And it appears to be journalism. Of course, this is not disinformation, because this is the narrative, the current theme of this hard, radical, neo-Marxist left. Their cultural revolution endorses these messages. So therefore, you say there's no climate change. Now, you're telling the truth, but that's disinformation, because these people have branded anything which contradicts their narrative as being a lie when they are the liars. This perversion of language is at the heart of all these Marxist movements, and it's extremely destructive. So when they have various examples here of how this institute is working, they cite a session that when three of the participants were paid $10,000 each in working grants to write about extremism. Again, this is ridiculous. They're giving generous travel grants, generous grants between $10,000 and $15,000 to write articles. This is propaganda. Pure and simple, it's propaganda. And the next story, the last one I want to cover today, is the schools are finally, people are realizing this teachers union has gone extremely to the left, and that the Democratic Party politicians are essentially controlling the teachers union. And the teachers union in the U.S. is supporting the Biden woke agenda in the schools. What's happening as a result is that school choice as a revolution has been never stronger.
This week marking National School Choice Week.
There you go.
20
states are doing National School Choice Week. 10 states have already passed universal education choice initiatives in the last 2 years. In addition to private school tuition, most of these programs allow families to use their children's taxpayer-funded education dollars to cover certain homeschool expenses. So the loudest and most influential pushback against school choice comes from Democratic politicians who are being paid by the teachers union. Teachers unions want to protect their monopoly over education. And so therefore they are paying Democratic politicians. All you have to do is pay these people. They're all open for bribes. U.S. Congress is the best Congress money can buy. And they are today going forward with insisting that the woke agenda be what's taught in the public schools. If you leave your child in the public schools, you're losing control over education, and they're going to be taught a woke agenda. School Choice Coalition has supported legislation that includes language preserving the autonomy of private education providers. So, for example, Arizona's Education Savings Account, the statute that created that, states that a school shall not be required to alter its creed, practices, admissions, policy, or curriculum as a condition of accepting ESA students. So therefore, because they're getting government money from a savings account created by the state in Arizona, the state cannot come in and demand that woke gender insanity be taught to the children, nor can it demand that homeschooling teach the woke agenda. What's going on, I think the American people and the people in Europe have just had enough of this. We're seeing our economies destroyed with the spending that's going on right now, with Congress going along with Biden, just spending more money. We don't have any budget. We don't have any control. The Pentagon has lost track of where trillions of dollars have gone. We've got $34 trillion in our national debt. We're paying $1 trillion a year in interest on the debt. We've already bankrupted the United States. We destroyed the military. You can't watch the news because you're just going to get lied to. And the children are being taught woke in schools. Now, if this isn't insanity, I don't know what is. And as we move closer and closer to a nuclear war, with wars in Ukraine expanding, Zelensky is not going to quit begging for money for more arms. With Gaza being essentially destroyed, Israel's going to root out Hamas, but they know they can't destroy this entire tunnel system. It's too vast underneath the Gaza. They're going to build a buffer, probably a mile buffer between Gaza and Israel, with heavily fenced and heavily guarded, so as to prevent another October 7th kind of attack happening. But yet the Israelis themselves have not been prepared. They're disarmed as a population. The left in Israel has disarmed Israel largely, as the left wants to disarm civilians all over the world. This left is insanity, and it is Marxism. The Democratic Party has become a Marxist party, and there's no doubt about it. And the Biden administration, with the corruption, the Department of Justice is doing nothing about it. There's too much money being paid to too many politicians to go along with this woke agenda. I think finally people are waking up and saying enough. Now, I want to wrap this up today in saying that the truth is that in the end, God will always win. God will win here too. We're going to get a judgment of God for letting this insanity go on. Insanity has been overwhelming. And we cannot continue like down this path without seeing massive economic pain, massive war, with continued attempts to have children mutilate themselves on this transgender issue. By the way, the LGBT is now included P, which they're calling pedosexual, to try to make it sound good, as if it's just another sexual orientation rather than sexual abuse, sex slavery of children. How many children come across the border unaccompanied are really told to under the control of sex slavery, under the control of their sex masters, making money, profiting from pedophilia. Jeffrey Epstein was not an isolated instance. And when you see the list of dignitaries and politicians, Bill Clinton in this blue dress painting in Epstein's home in New York, this is an insane era. And it's violating God's law. You can't chop up babies in the womb to harvest their organs. Can't take God out of the schools. Call God a sky fairy, which is what this Noah Harari wants to do. In the end, God will win. And I'm encouraging everyone in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, let's get on our knees and ask God's forgiveness for letting the world get to this point. I do believe that we will go through the judgment of God, and more people that join us together praying for God to hear our prayer and heal our land, God will do so. I don't think God created the human race to fail, but we're entering into a final battle here with Satan, where Satan's either going to win or God's going to lock him up in hell for hopefully eternity. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Thank you for joining us. This is The Truth Central. Unfortunately, the truth is not always good news. The Truth Central, we're doing podcasts every weekday. You can see us if you take a look at the website, thetruthcentral.com. The upper right-hand corner, you can see all the platforms we're on. We're on iHeart, Spotify, just all the kinds of Rumble, and audio only, as well as visual, Zoom type podcasts. You can see on social media. You can find me at X at Corsi Jerome 1. My Substack, and I'm posting articles from truth about Neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. That's what the Substack looks like. You can see we published a lot of articles in there on abiotic oil. Please look at it. We're going to post a lot of in-depth material, which will be largely free, and we will supplement this with interviews and other paid content to give the paid subscribers additional benefit from the website. The Substack is Jerome Corsi, PhD.substack.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024. God bless.